Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Barclays Center here in Brooklyn. It's press conferences advancing the second round of the NCAA Division I Men's Basketball Championship. We'll begin in just a few moments with student athletes from Villanova. Today's schedule is as follows. From 1:35 to 1:55, we'll have Villanova student athletes here in the main interview room. The student athletes that don't join us in the main interview room are available in the Villanova open locker room. That's from 1:35 to 2:15. 20 minutes in here with student athletes, then 20 minutes with head coach Jay Wright, and the locker room will be open for the entire time for interviews outside of this main news conference room. 2:20 to 3 o'clock, the same thing happens for Iowa. 20 minutes with student athletes, 20 minutes with Coach McCaffrey. From 3:10 to 3:50, it's Stephen F. Austin, 20 minutes with student athletes in here, 20 minutes with the head coach. The locker room's open the entire time. And then for Notre Dame, it's 3:55 to 4:35, 20 minutes with student athletes, 20 minutes with head coach Mike Bray, and the locker room is open the entire time. If anybody needs a breakdown, you guys can come up and ask me, and I'll give it to you off mic. If you need the satellite information, we have that in the back with the Hammond Communications staff, as well as I have it up here. Just a reminder, while joining us in the main interview room, please silence your cell phone. I'm going to silence mine right now. Please refrain from using any flash photography or video recording devices. A lot of people have been asking about social media. What do I do for Twitter video, Instagram video, Vine video, stuff like that? The open locker room session, that's what that's for, as well as all of the news crews with their electronic news gathering, their ENG cameras and all that. You can shoot social media video when you're interviewing student athletes and coaches outside of this room. When you're inside of this room, no Vine videos, no Twitter videos, no Instagram videos. And we'll mention that if it looks like that's what you're doing. Again, carte blanche outside of this room. Blanche inside of this room. Yes, sir. Not sure yet, but I'll let you know as soon as I know which student athletes are coming from Villanova. Again, Blanche down there. Carte Blanche down there. Blanche up here. As you can see, the Villanova student athletes who will be joining us in just a moment are Ryan Arcidiacono and Daniel Ochefu. Coach Wright will join us in 20 minutes. The rest of the student athletes on the Villanova roster are available in the Villanova locker room for the next 40 minutes. And they're available for your Vine videos and Instagram videos and Twitter videos there as well. Ak. The Villanova locker room should be open right now for the next 40 minutes. I lost one customer. It's okay. Today is all about choice for the media. Hang out here with us, go to the locker room. It's a beautiful thing. I don't think you can. It's not about choice for ASAP.
Check 1, 2, test 1, 2. Want to get your level? Hold on.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Thank you. Your microphone's on if you want to say it.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon. We're joined now by Villanova student athletes Ryan Arcidiacono and Daniel Ochefu. Their teammates are all available in the locker room at this time. But for the next 20 minutes, Ryan and Daniel will join us up here on the dais. In 20 minutes, Coach Wright will join us for the entire 40 minutes. The locker room is open with the remaining Villanova student athletes. And we're looking for the first question for Ryan or Daniel. It's going to go to Joe on the left side of the aisle.
Joe Giuliano, Philadelphia Inquirer. Daniel, the daily question, how did your ankle make it through the game yesterday, and how do you feel today?
Ankle made it through perfectly yesterday, no tweaks or anything, and today it's feeling fine right now. Felt good in our little walkthrough practice we just had, so I'll get back to the hotel, do some treatment, and continue working on it, so I'm good for game time.
Next question's to the right of the aisle. Josh?
Josh Newman, Asbury Park Press. Ryan, I feel like the big picture perception of Villanova and specifically you and the senior class is kind of tied to March and how far you can go. Given all that you've accomplished during your career, is it almost unfair that the big picture perception is tied to this time of year?
No, everyone has the right to think what they want, to say what they want, and we've played in those games. We haven't come through in the second round of the tournament, and we've had some great success throughout the regular season and in the Big East tournament the last couple of years. But I mean, hopefully we can win tomorrow. But we're just excited to play. But I can't really tell people how they should look at our senior class, or myself in particular. They have the right to think of us how they want to.
We have two questions on the left side. We'll start with Bob, and then we'll go to the row in front.
Bob Ford from the Inquirer. Either one of you guys, whoever wants to take, what are your thoughts about Iowa so far, and what challenges they present? Do they remind you of anybody sort of you've seen this year?
We'll ask both of you to answer that. First Ryan, then Daniel.
They're tough. They can really score the ball. They have great size and great length. I mean, clearly Utah can go off at any moment. Same with Jock, and then they have Woodbury on the inside. I don't think we've seen anyone in particular that has had the length that they've had and had the scores that they've had. I would think a couple of years ago when we played Creighton, when they had McDermott and all those shooters, they were that good. So that's the one team that we were kind of thinking that had the length, the shooters, and the skill guys that they have.
We know they're an extremely tough, well-coached Big Ten team, and we played them our sophomore year in Atlantis, and we do a lot of the same things that they did with Devin Marble for Utah and the other guys. But we all know that they're all 2 years older, so more experienced. They're stronger, better players, and we really have to lock into our scouting report.
Front row on the left side.
Okay. Bob Groats, Delaware County Daily Times. Both you guys, you've been around Jay now for 4 years. Are you seeing him, is there like any kind of a different Jay in this tournament here and his approach? Is he kind of like, it seems like he's got a lot of energy, and is he doing anything different? What kind of changes have you seen in him, if any?
We'll ask Ryan to take that first, and then Daniel.
Compared to like our freshman year in the tournament, Coach Wright always has great energy every single day in practice, and I think even around tourney time, he's the same person he has been throughout the whole year. And that's the one thing I've loved about Coach Wright is you're going to get his 100% commitment to that practice or that day, whatever it is, whether it's film, whether we're just talking in the locker room or before practice or anything like that. He's going to give it to you 100%. And I just think he always has energy. But the NCAA tournament time, he's going to turn up a notch.
Yeah, definitely what Ryan said, NCAA tournament time, he's definitely turned it up, and then we all have, in terms of intensity, attention to detail, just because that's what we have to do. It could be possibly be our last game. And, I think this year we have a lot more young guys, and so he's definitely on myself and Arch to, be on those young guys, making sure they understand we have to respect every opponent, despite, their ranking or whatever. One of the best 68 teams in the country been playing this tournament. If we're playing against them, we have to give them the utmost respect.
Continuing with questions for Ryan or Daniel. If you have a question, raise your hand. We have another one for Joe to the left of the aisle.
For both players, we've all heard since September about your season will be measured by the second game in March, second NCAA game in March. Now that it's here, is there any, I know you guys always say the same thing about taking it one game at a time, but now that it's here, is it more of a special or more compelling moment for you guys?
And we'll ask Ryan to take that first again, and Daniel second.
Yeah, you know our answer is always one day at a time, one game at a time. But we're just excited to get back out on the court and play again. We know that if we play our game and defend and rebound like we know how to, there's going to be a good result at the end. But we're just excited to be in the NCAA tournament second weekend, and we're excited to have the opportunity to get past this game, and we'll try to do our best to be able to do that, but we know we have a very tough Iowa team.
Yeah, we were just extremely excited just to be able to play in our second game in this tournament, and everyone's been talking about this game for the whole year, even before in the summertime before the season started. So the fact that the game is here and we can finally just get it done, hopefully we get the win, and people stop talking about it.
Continuing with questions for the student athletes from Villanova. If you have a question, raise your hand. We'll send a microphone in your direction. On the left side, Bob.
I know it wasn't really reflected in the scoreboard, but is sometimes that first game tougher because you haven't played in 5-6 days, and you just want to come out and set a good tone for the tournament? getting past that, now getting into a little bit of a rhythm where you can play every couple of days, is that better for you guys, or is it not really a factor?
And again, we'll ask Ryan to take that first, then Danny.
There's always going to be nerves in the first game, first round, just with the younger guys. Everyone knows everything's turned up during tournament time, but it's especially getting out there because you know you're going to play a good team. And the team, since we got the 2 seed, we knew that team was going to come in with confidence off their tournament, and I think they did. And we struggled in the first half, and they really came out and punched us, but we kept responding, and eventually we were able to turn it up a notch. So I think in the beginning, everyone always has a little jitters just because you see everything NCAA tournament and you see the commercials and everything like that. But once we settled down, I think we were able to just play our game and eventually get the win.
I thought that first half in our first game was good for us just because, you know, we were grinding for a good part of it, and, you know, we just stuck with what we were doing. Coach Wright really harps on playing 40 minutes, and, you know, we played 40 minutes that game, and the results were in our favor. And, you know, we're not expecting to blow teams out like that every game, but, you know, if we play 40 minutes and, you know, guys like Ryan, Josh, Chris are hitting threes, stuff like that, stuff is going well inside and we're defending, you know, we're capable of doing that.
Next question's on the left side for Joe.
For both players, Jalen and Mikhail are new to this NCAA thing, played pretty well yesterday. What do you see in their demeanor and their and the way they prepare that makes you think that you know they're ready for this big stage?
Ryan first, please.
I think since Mikhail redshirted last year and he was able to be a part of the NCAA tournament team, he already had a good sense of it. And in the second half of the season, I think he's really found his role on the team and what he can bring to the team with energy off the bench, defending and rebounding. And I think Jalen is he's just ready for the big moment in every single game. I think for the NCAA tournament, I don't think it wasn't as big of a deal because I think he's taken every game like it's the biggest game of the year. And I think back to the Temple game when I knew that was a huge game for him and the way he responded in that. So I just think he's just mentally. He's not a freshman. I think he's an upperclassman, and he knows it's just our next game and knows what to do when he's out on the floor.
I think they're both doing a great job of, you know, just getting coached, continuing being coached. Even today, Mikhail messed up in our scouting report, and guys were getting on him and responded immediately. He made the adjustment, and he didn't make the mistake again. So both of those guys have just done a great job of understanding that just because the intensity is up, we're going to be on them more. Doesn't mean they should be down themselves. We're not going to be feeling bad for them if they make a mistake. We're just going to tell them about it, and then they're on to the next play.
For the next question, we'll go to the right side with Nicole.
Nicole Auerbach, USA Today. For both of you, this is more just out of curiosity. Yesterday was maybe the craziest day in NCAA tournament history. When you guys were done, do you guys watch the rest of the games? I know you're also preparing for games, but how do you guys handle the fun part of the NCAA tournament as participants?
Ryan first.
I think once we, definitely right after the game, we have to do all the media and everything. So we didn't get to see much of the first half of the Temple Iowa game. We were able to watch the second half in overtime in our room, but we're definitely all following along. We all were watching, or I think we were watching the Iowa game, but we were following on our phones the Middle Tennessee State and Michigan State game, which was a big shocker to everyone. But I know I didn't fall asleep until all the late games, and there was 3 great games with Northern Iowa that shot, and then every other game. So I know I was paying attention, but I know it doesn't have any effect on us. But it's just as a fan, it was pretty neat to see all the cool games.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when we're having our meals, there's always a game on, and we're watching it, and somebody else has their iPad out watching another game, and then we go to our rooms, you know, continue watching the games, and you know, all the great finishes last night, definitely good. I mean, I know I was up late watching the Northern Iowa half-court buzzer beater and the St. Joe's game, you know, and so it was just it's you know, it's March, great things happen, and you know, we just don't want to miss them. So you know, the TV's right there, we're laying in bed, and we just turn the TV on, and something great could happen.
Next question's all the way to the left.
Jesse Spector from Sporting News. Since you guys watched the Northern Iowa game, who on your team has that best half-court shot if it comes down to it?
Ryan first.
If
it's you, you can say it's you.
I don't want to say myself, but I think any end-of-game situation, I just think my teammates have the confidence in me shooting the ball from wherever it is. So I don't want to say myself, but I think that's what Daniel and everyone on our team would say. But if I had to, I'd probably go Josh, if not me. I don't know. Chris? I don't know.
I mean, end of the game, I'm putting the ball in Ryan's hand. He's made big shots. He's done it before. He always steps up to the plate, and we all have the full, utmost confidence in him. And we've seen him do it before. If he misses a shot, then we're surprised that he misses it. So if it's the half-court shot, I'm giving the ball to Ryan, just like how Northern Iowa did.
The only reason that everyone would have the confidence in me is because in practice, every single day, any game situation, it's always a play, and it's not just that person taking the shot, it's that person making the right read. And I think with the ball in my hands, I'll make the right decision, whether it's to shoot it or pass it.
Another question on the left side.
Jamal Murphy, Bill Roden on Sports. You mentioned you watched the games, the other games going on. I was wondering if you pay closer attention to the Big East, or do you care more about the Big East teams that are playing, or is it just whatever?
Ryan first.
Oh, I definitely was watching them, and we all want them to win. At least I do. I was definitely watching the Providence game the other day. We didn't get to see the Butler. I didn't really watch any of the Xavier game, but we're definitely supporting all the teams, and hopefully they represent the Big East well, and hopefully we all can do well in the tournament.
Yeah, it's always cool to see guys that we compete against in the same league do well in the tournament, and just whenever I got a chance to catch a little bit of Xavier game or Butler game, I watched the Providence game. It was cool.
On the right side, toward the back, Larry.
This is for Daniel. You mentioned earlier that you've been hearing all the talk about the second round going back to the summertime. So I'm just wondering, what are some of the conversations like? Is that like the family keep telling you about that?
No, just fans coming up to us saying, we're going to make it this year. We're going to get them this year. We're going to get past the second round. And even back then, we didn't even know we were going to be in a tournament yet. So it was just. Just going through the whole year hearing that, it was kind of annoying, but, everybody has the right to say just because it just means they expect better things of us, just like how we expect of ourselves.
We do have time for one or two more questions for Ryan or Daniel before they head back to the locker room, if there are any. Any final question for these guys? All right. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
The Villanova locker room is open with all student athletes for the next 20 minutes, and we'll be joined by head coach Jay Wright in just a moment in the main interview room. We're joined now by head coach of the Villanova Wildcats, Jay Wright. We're looking for the first question for Coach Wright. If you have a question, please raise your hand, and a microphone attendant will make his or her way in your direction. We have one in the front on the right side. Chad.
Hey, Jay. Chad Leistikow, Des Moines Register. Maybe can you give us a sense of your relationship with Fran McCaffery and what it means to be going against him in such an important game?
Well, I think Fran and I have been in this for a while. We're always going to run into our friends. People are asking us about playing Temple, all the Philadelphia people. And I was thinking in the back of my mind, it doesn't get any better if we play Iowa. I think very highly of Fran. I don't know if you guys know this in Iowa, but he's a kind of a legend, a basketball legend in Philly, White Magic. And in my era, he was a little bit older than me, just only a couple years, but he was a big-time player and very well known amongst our generation. And he coached at Lehigh. I played at Bucknell. I've followed everything he's done. He's won everywhere he's been, everywhere. Greensboro, Siena, Iowa. I think he's one of the great coaches in our country. I really do. And I had a young assistant who wanted to get started in coaching, and I asked Fran to take a chance on him, Andrew Francis. And I just said, look, I'll give you my word, this guy's going to be good. And he gave him a chance, and Andrew's been great for him. And so I just think the world of him, and I appreciate his friendship and that he gave Andrew a chance, and I think he appreciates that I gave him a good guy too.
On the right side of the aisle, Josh.
Josh Newman, Asbury Park Press. Given what Ryan and Daniel and the rest of the senior class has accomplished across all 4 years, is it almost unfair that the big picture perception of these kids is tied to tomorrow and what they do for the rest of this month?
Yeah. I really, you know what, Josh? I really don't think it's unfair. I just think it's sports, you know, and that's the beauty of coaching college athletics is that you get to use these as life lessons. You know, they're either gonna go by this weekend and they're gonna be the winningest class in Villanova history, and they're gonna get to a Sweet 16, or they're not, and they're gonna be the winningest class in Villanova history and didn't get past the second round. And either way, it's going to be a learning process for them. I don't think they're going to define themselves by this for the rest of their life, but I understand what you're saying. It would seem unfair, but that is the way it is. And you get a lot of benefits playing for Villanova. They're going to use those the rest of their life, but this is all part of it, man. I heard Valentine from Michigan State yesterday say, you know, this is something I'm going to live with the rest of my life. You know, if you're a big-time athlete, you put yourself out on the stage in the arena. That's all part of it. That's why you got to respect what these guys do.
Continuing with questions for Coach Wright. If you have a question, please raise your hand. On the left side, Bob.
Hi, Jay.
Hey, buddy.
Bob Groats, Delaware County. I just always wanted to say that. We were talking the other day about elite programs, and you guys are certainly on the cusp and have had stretches of elite play, but they don't seem to go through, you know, a 5 or 6 year stretch of not, like Kansas hasn't been in it for a couple of years late, and you know now that, but then they're back getting runs again. What is the difference between those guys and the cusp guys, and how do you get from there to there?
There is a difference, national perception. You know, if you're getting to Sweet 16s, Final Eights consistently, and we had that going for a little bit. You know, I think you are considered one of the elite programs, and if you don't, nationally, you might not be considered. This is kind of similar to what we talked about yesterday. I think locally, East Coast wise, if you see the teams play all the time, I think you know our program has great respect. But it is definitely, your national reputation in this sport is definitely based on how you perform. Do you get the Sweet 16s? Do you get the Final Eights? Do you get the Final Fours? Do you win national championships? That puts you with the elite, you know, and we'd certainly like to be there, but we've got to earn it. We've got to go do it. You know, I think the elite programs over time don't have as much problem with the matchups, you know. We have, again, the years when we were going Sweet 16, Final 8, Final 4, but the matchups really didn't matter. We had some really tough matchups the year we went to the Final 4. We had UCLA, Duke, and Pitt, who was number 2 in the country. That was bad matchups. Didn't bother us then. And but if matchups give you trouble, you got to be a little bit better. The elite teams don't get affected by matchups.
Staying on the left side toward the back.
As much, I should say. They don't get affected as much because they can't. Like you look at Michigan State. I mean, once in a while you're going to get hit.
Jamal Murphy, Bill Roden on Sports. You've mentioned a couple times about wanting to represent the Big East, how you felt you let the Big East down as a conference last year. I was wondering, what's the root of your pride as far as the Big East goes, and do you feel like the conference as a whole can get back to the glory years?
I don't think any conference is going to get back to the glory years. I think the days when the ACC was a basketball conference and it was Tobacco Road, they were the glory years. When the Big East had Syracuse and UConn, they were the glory years, and St. John's. And I think college football has eliminated that. What we have is still really, really special and exciting. And the root of my pride in the Big East is I think in terms of a basketball conference, we're authentic. I think there are a lot of conferences. Now we all know this. There are a lot of conferences that are put together for football, and they are producing very good basketball conferences that were formed to be football conferences, and they happen to be good basketball conferences also. But they're not traditional, like we all know. We are a basketball conference. We're an outlier. We're there for one reason. Just like those football conferences were built for football, we're built for basketball. We take great pride in that. And it's the biggest sport on our campuses. We don't hide behind that, anything but that. And it means the most to our alumni. They're all in metropolitan areas where the game started. And we just take great pride in that. And we want to see how good can we be. You know, we're new, we're growing, we're getting better every year. And we want to see how good we can be.
On the right side toward the front, Chad.
Chad Leistikow, Des Moines Register again. Circling back to Andrew Francis, I think he worked for you for 2 years. What do you remember that attracted him to you in the first place, and kind of why you recommended him and what you've seen in his growth?
He was a businessman that was already had a good job and was making good money, and he was a friend of Eddie Pinckney's, who was on our staff, and Eddie brought him to me and said, like, this guy wants to quit his job and come coach. And he started as a video intern, making no money. And I was just so impressed how a grown man who had a good job really loved ball and had a great deal of humility and would take the lowest job on the staff and have great enthusiasm about it. The longer he worked for us, I saw his character, I saw his intelligence, his basketball IQ, his ability to relate to players, and I knew he'd be a superstar. No one else could know that when you're a video guy. You don't see him on the road. But when I told Fran that, I think he trusted me on that. And I think Fran's seen, what a great coach Andrew has become. I think he'll be a great head coach one day.
In that same area, Nicole.
Jay, Nicole Auerbach, USA Today. Not that you guys don't play games with short turnarounds during the regular season, but obviously it's amped up now. What is the biggest key for you when you prepare for the quick turnaround in the second game of weekend?
The later in the season you play the quick turnaround games, the easier it is to prepare X and O wise, the harder it is to stay fresh mentally and physically. So we just finished our practice, and I thought I always evaluate after practice. If I did anything poorly, I might have gone through a little bit too much mentally. Physically, I think they're in good shape. They're fresh, but that's our key, is just make sure that they're playing Sunday with just fresh legs, fresh mind, aggressive, and freewheeling.
On the left side toward the front.
Jay, Kevin Cooney, Calkins Media. You mentioned, the comment was made about the Big East comment you made during the tournament about feeling like you let the Big East down last year. I mean, you've talked about the pressure constantly. It's gone on all season, dealing with this game tomorrow. How do you prevent from that becoming overwhelming and cracking 19, 20, 21-year-old kids?
We have talked about that. As I said, we talked about it during the season that we can't let that affect our ability to enjoy the season. Right? And I thought the guys did a great job of that. And as we talked about it, we said, guys, if we ever get to that point, then when we get to that point, then we're going to have to deal with that at a higher level. So we've actually talked about if we ever got to this point. I said, then we'll deal with it. So we dealt with it, and we said to the guys, we've been here before, and we've given great efforts, and we failed, and it didn't kill us. So let's put this isn't going to kill us. So let's go put all our effort into playing the best we can, enjoying the hell out of it, and getting after it. It's like you look at what's the worst outcome. We know what it is. We've already done that. We've lived through it. And so let's go have fun putting all our effort into the best outcome. And that's how we're approaching it.
Justin, did you have one over there? Okay. We're going to move to the right side then in the front.
Scott Docterman, Cedar Rapids Gazette. 2 years ago, you played Iowa in the Bahamas right after you beat Kansas, a very talented Kansas team in the last second shot. Then you guys kind of slugged it out. I think 8 different lead changes, a lot of big runs. What do you recall from that game specifically against Iowa, and how can you apply it because their personnel is a little bit different today than it was 2 years ago?
Watching film of that game, getting prepared for Iowa, we watched that game too, obviously. And what I can't get out of my head is all these guys who are seniors now were playing in that game as freshmen or sophomores, whatever they were young. And they looked young in that game. And you look at them now, they're men. I mean, they are thick, strong, tough men. So I can't imagine that's an advantage for us. Those guys remember that game. It was a slugfest. Great credit to Iowa's strength staff, because you look at the bodies of those guys from that game and their bodies now. Uthoff, especially. He was a skinny, wiry kid. I think he got his head cut in that game. That was a really tough physical game. So they've got a lot of experienced guys. Most of the guys we have were not in that game. That's my recollection of that.
Toward the front, Chad.
Yeah, I just wanted to circle back on that question. With Peter Jock, he barely played in that game, and now he's become a sharpshooting All-Big Ten superstar. How do you, what have you seen on film from him, and how do you look to contain him?
Yeah, so I guess that would have been, Uthoff and those guys would have been sophomores. Jock was a freshman in that game. Yeah, again, I think it speaks to the talent of their staff, and how these guys have developed. That's really what hits me is just Marble was on that team. They had some good older guys, but these guys were playing and they were good. And where they are now compared to where they were then is a significant improvement in basketball IQ, in execution, and in confidence.
Continuing with questions for Coach Wright, if there are any, just raise your hand. Toward the front.
I've been interested in maybe the maturation process of some of your older guys. Josh Hart, for instance, I mean, quality guy, our first experiences with him. What can you tell us about him as a person to go along with all his prowess on the court?
He's a really humble kid, and he's a joy to coach in that he came in as one of the best players in Washington, D.C. He battled Chris Jenkins for Player of the Year and came in second, and did everything we asked him to do. He went to Sidwell Friends. He's bright. He was an inside player in high school, really worked on his perimeter jump shooting. In certain games, we ask him to be more of a defensive player, a stopper. We got to stop somebody. He'll do that, And certain games, we got to be our leading rebounder. He'll do that. He's such a great winner, and he was the most upset when we lost the Big East tournament. Just such a team player, and he just plays the game to win. You can't have a better teammate.
Move over to the left side.
Jay, you always talk about the NCAA being overwhelming, especially for kids doing it for the first time or early on. Did you keep a special eye a little bit on Bridges and Brunson and maybe a little bit Booth in the game yesterday?
Really did. I really did, and I was really impressed. We actually, Mikal Bridges I thought was outstanding, and really in that area, because that's what I look for. He's playing with enough upperclassmen. If he got in there and didn't make mistakes, he'd be okay, but he went in there and made plays. I mean, he really made plays. He was aggressive. Worried a little bit about Darrell Reynolds because he really hadn't played in any. I thought he did a really good job. Brunson, I just don't worry about in those situations. He's such an old soul. He's played in some of the high school games I've seen him play in where, the place is sold out to see him individually play against the best high school team in Chicago, and I've just seen him handle everything. And Booth, really significant playing time, first time. Thought he did a really good job too. That was one of the things I was most pleased with in that game, because we need those guys if we're going to be able to compete with a team like Iowa, and I think they're ready to go.
Next one's in the front row on the left.
Jay, what kind of problems could Iowa's length present you?
Both ends of the floor, Kevin. Utah, like we don't have a body like that. I don't know if many teams. Actually, Temple did a pretty good job because at Chinoya had a good matchup with him. They did a good job, and Bond strong with length. We don't have that guy that's got that length and strong enough. McHale's long but real thin. So if he posts us up or takes us around the basket, he's going to give us trouble. On the other end, it's difficult to post him up. Even Jock, they're so long, and yet they intelligently have the mobility to play on the perimeter and still contest threes. Those kind of teams give us trouble. And Woodbury, he's 7'1", man. The guy's big. He made a difference in that game last night. At the end, Temple out-rebounded them overall, but with the game on the line, when they run their sets at the end, Franny is a very intelligent coach. They're running their sets for their guys, but he's on that weak side block, and that's part of the play. He's tapping that ball back. They actually won the game on him being in that spot. When Gazelle drove the ball, if he doesn't go to the weak side block, he's not getting that. So his length around the basket is going to be a problem for us, too.
We have time for a final question, and it's going to come on the right side.
What's your take so far on the tournament? I'm sure you're locked in on what you're doing, but you probably are looking around going, wow. I mean, I think 13 lower-seeded teams won over the first 2 days. Have you seen a year like this, and is there any way you can compare it to the big picture of college basketball? More parity, or what is it?
I hesitate to say this. I don't mean this as an excuse, but it's why I don't get overly upset about us not getting past the second round recently. Like, we've played some really good teams, and when you see Michigan State get beat, you see Cal get beat. The parity in college basketball is such that given an NCAA tournament atmosphere and pressure and the talent of mid-majors, if you even want to call them that anymore, every game is so difficult. Now, it's also the beauty of the game. Like, we went into that game against Asheville knowing right before half it was a 2-4 point game. We made a little run. We were ready for a 2-point game. We weren't going to be surprised by it. And I just think the parity in college basketball is such that anybody can be. Look at Duke and UNC Wilmington. That was a great game. South Dakota State. All these teams. It's not a surprise to anybody anymore. I think that's great for college basketball.
We'd like to thank Coach Wright for
Thanks,
joining
guys.
us here. Good luck tomorrow. The Villanova locker room should be closing about right now, and we'll begin things in about 5 minutes. In just a few minutes, we'll be joined by student athletes from the University of Iowa. Jared Udoff and Mike Gazelle will be here in the main interview room. During that time and for the next 40 minutes, the Iowa locker room will be open. The student athletes not in the main interview room will be available for interviews in the locker room. Ladies and gentlemen, we're joined now by Jared Udoff and Mike Gazelle from the University of Iowa. Their teammates are in the locker room for the next 40 minutes, waiting to take your questions there. In 20 minutes, we'll be joined by head coach Fran McCaffery, and we'll allow Jared and Mike to return to their teammates in the locker room, where they will be excited to take 20 more minutes of questions there. But right now, they're with us for the next 20 minutes, and we're looking for the first question for them. And coming out of left field is Tim with the first question.
Hi guys, Tim Bonus from the Washington Post. I was just curious. Your dad was, your coach was a great player in Philly. Went to Penn. Obviously you guys are playing a couple of Philly schools this week. You grew up with the coaches. How much do you guys know about his playing career, and what is it like? Seeing him going up against a couple of Philly schools like this.
Jared first.
I don't really know much about his playing career, and I think it gives him a good idea of how they coach and what kind of people they are. That helps him, when he's coaching against guys he knows.
Mike, anything to add?
Yeah, I've never seen him play. I just know that they called him the White Magic, and I know he always tells me he didn't have a jump shot. He could just dribble around and find people. So that's all I really know about it from his word. But I know, like you said, he knows the programs. He knows the history behind the programs. So I think he knows them pretty well in that regards. But it's just another game.
Question on the right side toward the middle.
Scott Docterman, Cedar Rapids Gazette. This is for both of you guys. 2 years ago, you played Villanova in the Bahamas in really a back-and-forth game. I think there were 8 lead changes, a lot of big runs. Some of you guys, you guys obviously played in that game. A few of them played as well. What do you recall of that game, that tournament, and especially kind of the way the game unfolded?
We'll ask Jared to take that first, and then Mike.
It was a tough game. We got up to an early lead, I believe, and they made a bunch of threes. They made a big run. It was back and forth at the end, and they squeaked it out.
Mike.
Yeah, it was a fun game to play in. Villanova's a team that is going to battle you. It's going to be a physical game. They're a team that will never go away. We had a lead in that game, and they come back, and they're never out of a game because of the way they shoot the three. So you got to have a concerted effort defensively for the entire 40 minutes.
In the front to the right of the aisle.
Me?
You.
Oh, great.
Congratulations.
Michael Oss, Cedar Rapids Gazette. Jared, I know you guys are locked into your thing, but you and I won last night, and I was just wondering, so many guys that you played against in high school and yourself are prominent in this NCAA tournament. Just your feelings about that, and did it feel like you were playing among great talent back then?
Yeah, definitely at the time, I knew I was playing with great talent. That Cedar Rapids area, in particular, and the state of Iowa had a lot of talent when I was coming through there, and it still does today. People underestimate the value of how much talent is in Iowa, and I think it's fantastic that we're all showcasing it on the biggest stage in college basketball in March Madness.
Continuing with questions for the student athletes from the University of Iowa. If you have a question, please raise your hand. In the back,
Just for both of you guys, Villanova players were in here and they got grilled about not advancing to the Sweet 16 and that they've been so close. Do you guys get anything like that from your fans and your media, that you hear that it's been so long since Iowa's made it to the second weekend?
Jared first, and then Mike.
Wow. I try not to pay attention when people discredit what we've done, and each year is a new year, so you can't really go based on, it's new personnel, it's a new squad, it's new dynamics of the team, so you can't go based on last year. A couple of the guys from last year maybe have motivations from what happened the previous year, but it's a new team, new year. Each year is different. That's what I'll tell them.
Mike.
Yeah, like Jared said, we don't listen to outside noise very much. everyone has opinions, and, obviously we haven't made the Sweet 16 in a while, but, that's a difficult task. And, once you get into March Madness, every single team is a very good team. It's tough to just make it into this tournament. And so you really have to value every single game, and, it's, you just go out and battle every single day.
We have a question on the right side here.
You guys both academically are second to none based on grade point average and your accolades there. Going through your career, you both graduated a year early. What kind of, how much commitment did you have to do on the academic side, and how difficult was it to juggle that with doing everything basketball-wise to get where you are? And what kind of advice would you give other athletes who are trying to achieve both in the classroom at your level and then on the court?
And again, we'll ask Jared to take that first, then Mike.
Well, first off, you make a conceited effort to do your work. As long as you do what's required, you're going to get good grades. And that's my advice to anybody out there going through it. Your first couple years are going to be tough. Those are the toughest years for us because it's all new to us. Our eyes are open, and there's so much basketball going on. Maybe things aren't going your way, and then there's so much stress in your life, and you do what needs to get done. I mean, you don't make excuses about it. If you have to stay up till midnight on writing a paper, you do it. Don't procrastinate. Just get it done.
And Mike?
Yeah, the biggest change for me from high school to college was time management. You obviously have a lot more work in college, and so the biggest thing for me was always working ahead. With basketball, you never know what your schedule is going to be like, and it's tough to do homework on the road sometimes. So I always tried to work ahead and really just stay at top of assignments, and that's my advice.
Back to the very front.
For both of you guys, yesterday I heard Adam say that he doesn't engage in social media, doesn't read anything about the team. Jared, you've said similar things. Is this a team thing? And basically, what are your attitudes about just maybe tuning out the outside world? Why?
Jared first, then Mike.
I wouldn't say necessarily it's a team thing. It's not like we got together as a team and said, we need to do this. I mean, it's an individual basis, everybody's preference. Some people like to read it, some people don't, I personally, and as for most of us, we like to tune it out. I mean, you can't start listening to outside noise. It leads to bad things. It leads to either you overhyping yourself or thinking you're better than you are, then you start relaxing, and you can never be content with where you are. You're always striving to get better, and part of that is blocking out outside noise.
Mike, anything to add?
Yeah, personally, I think it's very important to block out outside noise. Like you said, people are going to start telling you how great you are when you're playing well, and people are going to tell you how bad you are when you're not playing well. And it's too stressful to think about all the highs and lows and ride that roller coaster throughout the season, and it's really going to wear on you. And so as a team, I know we do a great job of just staying level-headed throughout the entire season and just focusing on day and day and enjoying the process and just taking it one day at a time and not worrying about what everyone's saying.
We have a question in the back on the right side.
Jamal Murphy, Bill Roden on Sports. Going back to the academic piece, does it bother you, when student athletes don't get the credit for the academic part of it? It really seems like you have two full-time jobs. Does that bother you? And when people make jokes about, student athletes not really being students?
Jared first, please.
I'll let Mike do that first.
Okay, we're deferring to Mike.
Well, I've always taken a lot of pride in my academics, and like you said, it definitely is like two full-time jobs. You're practicing what's allowed 20 hours a week, and then you have your full school schedule on top of that, and regular students don't go through that. They have all the time in the world to to focus on their studies. And then as an athlete, you also need to maintain a social life too and have friends outside of that. So it's just a balancing act. And you know, obviously athletes do, there's that, a lot of people think that athletes don't do as well in school, but you know, it's tough at times, and I know it's tough on a lot of athletes, and the time management part, especially freshman, sophomore year, can be very hard, and it does take a lot of work.
Jared, did you have anything to add on that one? Okay. We have another question on the right side.
The time demands issue has been heavily scrutinized or looked at over the last couple of years, facing student athletes, you know, the 20-hour rule, whatever that is, and then trying to get some time away in the off season. But in a skill sport like basketball, they can say, okay, you don't have to go to practice, but you probably feel compelled to have to work every single day. How do you balance that by getting away, maybe clearing your head for a month or a week or whatever, and still work on your craft? Because I'm sure if you go a week or two without shooting, then your shot changes and doesn't come together quite the way you need to.
And that's
so you
for both
talk
Jared.
to the 20-hour a week, or you talking how I manage my time?
With regard to the sport, the NCAA is trying to manage time demands better for student athletes so you don't feel compelled to work on the sport year-round and give you guys a break. However, if you don't, do you feel compelled to work on your craft on the side? And if you abide by it, you're kind of stuck, aren't you?
You're compelled to work no matter where you're at. You want to be the best. That's what. If you're a competitor, you want to be the best. So it doesn't matter if they're going to have some kind of maximum, minimum. I'm going to do what I need to do. You know, for me, time demands are a separate thing. I mean, if you want to be the best in basketball, you don't worry about that. There is no minimum for you. There's no maximum for you. You do what what you feel your body needs. You know, if that's going in and working for 1 hour for 3 times a day, which adds up to 3 hours a day in the off season, that's what you need to do. If you think that, listen, my body needs an off day, I take an off day, you know, and you trust your coaches. When you come to a school, you trust your coach that he's going to have the best interest of you. And a lot of times the coaches know your body. They know when to push you, when to step back. Listen, these guys are tired. It's all a balancing act between mainly the coaches, and it should be in the coaches' hands to decide that kind of stuff.
Anything to add, Mike? No. Okay. We have a few minutes for more questions for the athletes from the University of Iowa, if there are any further questions. All right, we'd like to thank Jared and Mike for joining us down in the main interview room. They're going to head back and join their teammates in the locker room for more questions until 3 p.m. Thanks, fellas. We'll be joined by head coach Fran McCaffery in just a few minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, the Iowa locker room remains open until 3 p.m., and we're joined right now by the head coach of Iowa, Fran McCaffery. We're looking for the first question for Coach McCaffery. If you have one, please raise your hand. We'll send a microphone in your direction, and let's start on the left side.
Hey, Fran. Bob Ford from Philly Inquirer. How you doing?
Doing great, Bob.
I know how aware of you are of this. But the overriding narrative in Philly is about Nova getting back to the second weekend. It's been a stretch for them. As you look at your career, I mean, Lehigh, Greensboro, and Siena, and you were shooting upstream most of those places, and now getting things going where you are. You probably wouldn't mind starting your own narrative of getting to that stage too. Are you tired of Jay's narrative and want?
You know, I really hadn't paid any attention to it, to be honest with you.
Next question on the right side in the back for Tim.
Fran, Tim Bondas from the Washington Post. I asked a bunch of your players, and basically the only thing they seem to know about your playing career is that they used to be called White Magic in Philly. I was just curious. It seems like it's not something you talk about. They all basically said you don't really talk about yourself much. But as a Philly guy and growing up, with Jay playing against Fran, is it kind of a neat weekend for you on top of being in the tournament to be going up against a couple of Philly schools like this?
You know, we have a very unique bond. When you grow up in Philadelphia, it's not just Fran Dunphy and Jay Wright. It's Fran O'Hanlon. I mean, you just keep going. There's John Gallagher. There's so many of us. And then, the group that came before, Paul Westhead and Jack McKinney and those guys. We had great mentors. And, my college coach, Bob Weinhauer, is here this weekend, spending the weekend with us. It's kind of ironic for me that we end up here with Temple and Villanova, two programs I have such respect for and grew up watching, grew up fans of. I spent 2 days with Rollie Massimino when I was at Greensboro. He helped me with our press. That's the press that we employed. We've had great success with that. Dave Duke was on my staff at Lehigh. Now he's on staff at Temple. So it's really a special and unique bond. I don't talk about my playing days. They don't know anything about it. All those guys remember. It's funny when we go to the Final Four, we see all the Philly guys, Horace Owens, and they just that's what they call me. They call me Magic. They don't call me Fran. So our guys aren't used to that, but I am.
Follow up. Take the mic, Tim.
Can you just explain for those of us who aren't from there how you got the nickname in the first place?
Yes, I played in the Sunny Hill League, which at the time was a predominantly black league. I was one of the few white guys that played in the league, and I played with Lewis Lloyd. We were the same class: Gene Banks, Lewis Lloyd, Jeffrey Clark. We had a great group of guys, and it was the early stages of AAU. We would actually take that group and go play other towns and so forth. But Lewis Lloyd was Black Magic. And Julius Thompson, who was a Philadelphia sports writer at the time, he gave me that nickname, White Magic. And then, Lou and I played together and, we're good friends and so forth. And what was interesting, because I came from the city. I didn't come, a lot of the kids that went down to the Sunny Hill League were seeking the best competition. And a lot of those guys were jump shooters. And I wasn't. I was a driver and a slasher and, throw behind the back alley-oop passes to Gene Banks and things like that. And so I had a different kind of game than what people were expecting to see.
Continuing with questions for Coach McCaffery. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Any questions for Coach at this time? All right, we have one on the left side and the back.
Still on that question of White Magic, what I enjoyed was Mike Cassell when he was asked about knowing your playing career. He said, well, all I know is what he told me. He said he never shot the ball. He just dribbled around until he found somebody open. So you were a distributor like he is.
Well, it's a little bit harder for him, though, because back then we didn't have a shot clock. So, anytime you shot the ball and you were a bad shooter, the coach always said, we could probably get a better one. That just means you need a better shooter shooting it. But with the shot clock, you got to shoot it. So he's in a little different spot.
Any further questions for Coach McCaffery? Another one on the left.
the end of the game yesterday, if that doesn't define Adam Woodbury, I don't know what does, always being in the right place at the right time, or at least seemingly.
Well, the thing about him is, and I think you're absolutely right, he's always in the right place at the right time, he's physical, but the thing that I think defines him the most, if you coach him, is his intellect. You know, you remember the Indiana game, we're down 3, we shoot a 3, we don't make it, he rebounds the ball with 2.7, 2.5, whatever it was, immediately calls timeout. So we can run an inbounds play and shoot a 3. We need 3. I mean, how many times have you seen guys grab it and lay it in? You know, now there's 0.8 and you're down 1. You got no chance. You know, so yesterday he knows Mike's driving the ball. They were switching. They were pressing up. So Mike puts up a shot. I'm going to get in there. I'm going to tip it in. We don't have to worry about defensive balance. There's not going to be any time. So just go back and get it. And so that's, you know, yes, he is always in the right place at the right time, but there's a reason why. He knows where to go. And I think that's what makes him special.
Next question will be just to the right of the aisle for Roger.
Roger Rubin from Newsday. Fran, both teams here are looked on as being very polished, sophisticated offensive teams. But do you think that really defense may be the thing that wins this game?
I think that's a legitimate observation, because I think, you know, when you watch Villanova play, they distribute the ball and take good shots as well as any team that I've scouted on film this year. But I still think that defense in many ways can be their identity. You know, they're going to be in your space. They're going to be switching it up into you and pressuring the pass, pressuring the ball, fronting the post, fighting the post. And a lot of times you get into those kind of games this time of year, and it does come down to who can get stops, because getting baskets is often really difficult. We found that out yesterday. They came easy early, and it didn't seem like we could get anything going late, so we just had to keep getting stops. So, you know, it could be more of the same.
You may. Just grab the mic.
In terms of the defensive quality that some people refer to as junkyard dog, I mean, do you think that you guys have as much of that as Villanova?
I think when our defense is at its best, it's not only that. It's one thing to have junkyard dogs, but you got to have five defenders working as one. There's got to be an understanding. Okay, are we pressing? Are we man? Are we zone? Okay, where are their shooters? Where are their drivers? Who's in the game? And so there's got to be a toughness, but also a clear understanding and a clear picture of what we have to do together to stop them from scoring and give them one shot. So I think a lot of times people get caught up, well, they're just tougher, they're tough. You got to be tough and get a stop. You got to be tough, you got to be smart. And you can't have one without the other.
Up in the front, on the right.
Fran, including your guy, Jared, there are a half dozen players from Iowa City and Cedar Rapids with prominent roles in this NCAA tournament, playing for teams that are still alive. When you got to Iowa, did it surprise you, the quality of high school talent that was nearby? What struck you about it?
It didn't surprise me because I had watched Iowa AAU basketball for many years. I started with the Martin brothers, with Hank Huddleston. He had great teams. And then, he started the All-Iowa Attack program and, the Barnstormer program, Kingdom Hoops. I mean, so when you're on the AAU circuit and you get to see really good players. I saw Matt Gatens play, when I was at Siena and knew how good he was. I had recruited the state of Iowa when I was at Notre Dame. Recruited Jess Settles, recruited Rafe LaFrentz. We had Kirk Heinrich on campus. So it was not a surprise that I saw Ryan Bowen play. I saw Mac McCausland's teams in those days were really good. So no, I wasn't surprised at all. And it's one of the things that I think really excited me about the position, quite frankly.
Continuing with questions for Coach McCaffery, we have one on the left.
Coach Jamal Murphy, Bill Roden on Sports. I was wondering if there's a team that you've played that's similar to Villanova that you look at as an analogy to, or do you even look at it like that in general?
I think there are similarities to various teams. You know, I would say Maryland, Michigan, Michigan State, there's qualities in all of those teams that are similar to Villanova. But I do think Villanova is quite frankly, unique to anybody else that we played.
Any further questions for Coach McCaffrey at this time? Thank you very much,
Okay,
Coach.
thank you.
Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
We'll pick things up at 3:10 p.m. with student athletes from Stephen F. Austin, followed by Coach. Locker room is open for another 6 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be joined momentarily by student athletes from Stephen F. Austin, Thomas Walkup, C.J. Williams, and Jared Johnson. Their teammates will be available in the locker room for interviews beginning right now and lasting until 3:50. Student athletes for 20 minutes, and Coach Underwood will join us for the 20 minutes after that. Ladies and gentlemen, the Stephen F. Austin locker room is now open with student athletes waiting for your questions. We're joined right now by Thomas Walkup, C.J. Williams, and Jared Johnson here in the main interview room. They'll join us here for about 20 minutes. Coach Underwood will come and join us in 20 minutes, and Thomas, C.J., and Jared will return to the locker room and join their teammates. We're looking for the first question right now for student athletes from Stephen F. Austin. And we have one down in the front on the right side of the aisle for Len.
Thomas, Len Robbins, New York Post. Just bear with me if you can on this. Since the game the other day, your Twitter feed, how much has it gone up if you've noticed? Has your phone been blowing up from people you've never heard of?
Yeah, a little bit, just from fans outside of Texas and outside of the Nacogdoches community more than it, usually would after a victory.
We're going to keep following up with Len if we could just keep this microphone open.
I was talking to your dad earlier today, and he mentioned a couple of things, so I want to get the lowdown about what are you getting the most comments about, your hair, your beard, your biceps, or the tongue at the end of the game the other day?
I think the tongue has been my favorite memes that have been out there, but also the beard ones have made me chuckle.
Next question for the student athletes from Stephen F. Austin, also to the right of the aisle.
Thomas, maybe you've had big tournaments in the 4 games that you've played at SFA. Just talk about 2 double-doubles in tournaments and then 2 double figures and 9 rebounds in 2 games. Just talk about how you stepped it up or just been the leader in the tournament games that you played.
I think it just comes from experience. This being the 3rd year, it was much easier to step up and just kind of let the game come to me and let the nerves just relax a little bit. So I think it just comes from experience.
Next question is going to be on the left side toward the back, and if everyone can just please remember their names and media outlets before their questions for the benefit of our student athletes and for those tuning in at home.
Paul Gotham, Picking Splinters. Excuse me. For Thomas and Jared, Stephen F. Austin has won a lot of games in the past, but the success under Coach Underwood has taken it to a different level. What's the difference? What does he bring? How have things changed?
Thomas first, and then Jared.
His intensity, the culture that he's built at SFA is incredible. It's fun, it's energetic. Every day of practice is a huge competition between all 15 guys, And I think that's ultimately where the success has come from, and why we play 10 guys deep.
And Jared.
Coach Underwood, he brings such a competitive edge, to the team and to everything that we do on a daily basis, whether it be, just how we approach, practice and, things that we do in practice. And that carries over to the game. He emphasizes how important it is for us to be a comprehensive unit on the floor. So that's something that, he brings, and I think that contributes to a lot of our success.
Continuing with questions for the student athletes, we have one on the left side. Justin.
One for Thomas and one for all three of you. Thomas, you said last night that you hadn't shaved since November 1st, so I wanted to know what you went as for Halloween. And then for all of you guys, the experience of having been here before and having won a game before, what does that help you with going into tomorrow to try to prove that it's not just a one-game thing and that you guys can make a real run in this tournament?
We'll have Thomas take both of those questions, then CJ, then Jared.
For Halloween, I was Green Man. If you're familiar with the show, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And as far as approaching tomorrow, I think we are the real deal, and we're preparing to win. We're not preparing just to go out there and say we won a game and we're satisfied. I think it's all about the approach, and that's what we're approaching it like.
CJ.
Yeah, I mean, what Thomas said, we just came here to get to the Final Four. I mean, we trying to win this whole thing, so prepare every day for it.
Jared.
It's pretty much what these two guys said. We prepare every day to come out and compete and to win. We feel as if we can beat anybody, that we're faced against. But at the same time, we know that, it's going to be, a tough road, but I think we're prepared for it.
Back up to the front with Len.
Len Robbins, New York Post. Thomas, forget the wins and losses for a second. The injuries that you had to overcome in high school, just what does it mean to you to be playing right now?
It means a lot. Coach Casper recruited me to come here, and he had really given me a chance that not many people did, after those injuries. And then my game really took off when Coach Underwood got here. So, to be where I'm at is, I feel very blessed, and give that up to the Lord for allowing me to play basketball.
Next question's all the way in the back, all the way to the right with Tim.
Tim Bontis from the Washington Post. Thomas, there was a lot of internet memes yesterday with you and Bryce Harper. I don't know if that was something that you had seen before, and I was curious what you thought of it. And also, if you didn't say yesterday, why haven't you shaved since November?
Yeah, I've seen a couple of the memes. I think they're pretty funny, pretty comical. Bryce Harper's a handsome guy and pretty successful guy as well. But as far as the beard, I did the no shave November deal, and then just kind of got lazy with it, didn't shave it, and then we got on our win streak, and once we were 3 or 4 games into the win streak, I was like, I got to keep it, and we're still riding out that win streak.
Next question goes over to the left side.
Jamal Murphy, Bill Roden on Sports. You mentioned that you guys know you're the real deal. I was wondering what it feels like on Selection Sunday when you get a 14 seed. What's going through your mind? Are you thinking, wow, we're going to shock the world, or is it, oh, we've been disrespected?
I think kind of both. You always want to, get the highest seed possible, and there's a lot of good teams out there, a lot of high major teams. They're going to take with those first 10 or so, seeds in the 4 brackets, and so we're always fighting for that 11 or 12. So when we do drop to a 14 seed, it's like, all right, let's go show these dudes that we can actually play and shock the world.
Continuing with questions for the student athletes from Stephen F. Austin. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Any further questions for Thomas or CJ or Jared? All right, fellas, we'd like to thank you for joining us. They're going to join their teammates back in the locker room, which is open until 3:50. We'll be joined by Stephen F. Austin head coach Brad Underwood at approximately 3:30 p.m. The open locker room continues for Stephen F. Austin until 3:50 p.m., and we're joined right now by Stephen F. Austin head coach Brad Underwood. We're looking for the first question for Coach Underwood. If you have a question, please raise your hand. There's one right to the right of the aisle, and then we'll go to the left of the aisle.
Yeah, Kevin Gore from Nacogdoches Daily Sentinel. Brad, different round and different game and different challenge because you go from a team that pressed you a whole bunch and wants to speed it up and play on defense, and now you got a great offensive team that shoots the threes and drives to the goal. So just talk about the challenge Notre Dame presents on offense.
Well, they present a lot. From an efficiency standpoint, they're one of the best teams in America. Everything starts with them at the point guard spot. They've got an all-league performer in Jackson. And it is a different mindset from the standpoint that press Virginia, tremendous full-court defense, and yet from an offensive standpoint, completely different styles and different systems. We didn't see many ball screens last night, Kevin. Tomorrow night we'll see ball screens at every angle and coming from different parts of the floor. So, you know, I've got a tremendous staff. They've done an unbelievable job of preparation, and we just got through practicing, and we'll have to be on point from a defensive standpoint tomorrow.
Let's go to the left side right now.
Jesse Spector from Sporting News. Mike Bray said last night that you've tried to get him on the schedule, and he's told you no thanks, and now he's kind of forced into it. How difficult is it to get your team games against top-quality opponents? This is a year where you played 4, I think it was, non-Division I schools, and you know, obviously haven't played a power conference team up until last night for several months. And what is that, in addition to the difficulty of scheduling, what is the difficulty in getting your team prepared for that step up in competition?
I don't think we've ever concerned ourselves in our program with the name on the front of the jersey. We've been way beyond that. It's about our preparation. It's about our process. Scheduling is hard. That's why we're a 14 seed. This is my best basketball team that I brought to the NCAA tournament. And probably the most frustrating thing I've been through as a coach was scheduling. We were the 3rd week in September and didn't have our schedule complete. And we played 1 Division I home game. So scheduling is very difficult. If you can imagine Power 5 schools playing 1 Division I home game, things might change. So preparation, I don't concern myself with. It's about us going out. We're a mature basketball team. We're a focused basketball team. I think we've grown. I think we're playing our best basketball, and we really worry about the process. We shot 30% last night and found a way to win, and so the process is being consistent and working. And Notre Dame's the next one on the schedule, and that's who we've got to prepare for.
Continuing with questions for Coach Underwood. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Another one on the right. Just grab the microphone for us.
Kevin Gore from Nacogdoches. Notre Dame is going to be, I don't know, they want the flow to be free, and they want their guards with the ball to shoot threes, and they want to drive to the goal. And last night it was just a different kind of game than that. You had to win ugly, shooting 30%. But just talk about how confident you are in your offense, and maybe joining a game to where it's a free flow, and about how you'll have to approach the game maybe differently.
I think we approach every game differently, Kevin. I think the one thing that we try to do is I think we've been able to find ways to win in a variety of ways. Notre Dame poses a lot of problems. They're just different ones than what we faced the other night. Last night we were knocked off spots, and we didn't get to the offensive glass like we usually do. We didn't have the flow that I want to run offense with. That was completely knocked out of kilter. The press did that. Notre Dame hasn't pressed a whole bunch to what I've seen to this point. So the flow of the game will be different. And, we've got to adapt to that. And like I said, Mike does as good a job as anybody in the country in creating flow for his offense, and their numbers show that.
Next question for Coach Underwood, if there is one. Going back to the left side with Justin.
This is a little silly, but you're the coach of Stephen F. Austin, so I want to know, Stone Cold or the $6 Million Man?
Stone Cold, baby. Stone Cold all the way.
It's just 316 this week.
There we go.
That's a good point.
That's true.
Astute reporter. Next question for Coach Underwood, if there is one.
The second time you've been in the second round, UCLA was so big and just kind of took you out of that game out in San Diego a couple of years. But now you got a game to where you can get to the Sweet 16 and just you're a different team, you're a better team. Just talk about the stakes and how important it is for you to have your best game and get this in advance.
Well, I don't think it has it. Sweet 16, Elite 8, round of the first round. I think the one thing we've done, Kevin, is try to simplify it. If you lose, you go home, and it's really that simple. I don't want it for any of our guys. I was as nervous for our conference tournament finals. I was more nervous for that than I was last night, because we relish the opportunity to be here. We don't take it for granted, and yet there's another opponent. They're one of the best 32 teams in the country. There's no question. That's why we're playing them. We feel we belong, and I think the opportunity is no different than it was 2 years ago. We've got a challenge, and I hope we play better than we did 2 years ago against UCLA. But again, they're a quality basketball team and a quality conference, and we're going to have to perform at our best.
Any further questions for Coach Underwood? All right, Coach, I'd like to thank you for joining us.
Thank
Good
you.
luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
The Stephen F. Austin locker room will be open until 3:50 p.m. for your questions. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon once again. We're joined right now by student athletes from the University of Notre Dame, Demetrius Jackson, VJ Beecham, and Zach August. Their teammates are available in the locker room from right now until 4:35 for your questions. We'll be joined by Coach Bray down here in the main interview room at approximately 4:15. But right now, we're looking for the first question for Demetrius, VJ, or Zach. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll have one of our microphone attendants make their way in your direction. You can state your name and media outlet and then your question. And we'll hang out and we'll wait for the first question. There's one all the way to the left and all the way to the front.
I don't know, I guess, who wants to answer this one? Stephen Brooks, CNHI. Coach Bray had a good game, you know, back in his day against Stephen F. Austin. I was just wondering, I guess, if you guys could imagine, you know, him going for 22 points and just imagining him as a player, you know, the relationship you guys have with him now, what it would be like to go back and watch him.
We'll go right down the line with Demetrius, then VJ, then Zach.
Yeah, I saw that he had his career high against the team we'll be competing against, and you know, he's always really loose and really having fun with us. So he was talking to me personally about, you know, how he was doing all these flashy moves and stuff like that. So it was a good conversation.
And yeah, I agree with what Demetrius said, and you know, it probably brings back memories for him. He talked about it a little bit last night with me too. So
I agree with both of them.
Continuing with questions for the student athletes from Notre Dame. If you have a question, please raise your hand. All right. We have some time, so we'll wait for some questions to come up. We have one on the right side.
Jamal Murphy, Bill Roden on Sports. What do you guys know about Stephen F. Austin? Do you guys know any of the players on the team previously from AAU or anything like that?
We'll go right down the line again.
I don't know any of the players from AAU or anything like that. We watched them play in the last game, and they're a really great team. They do a lot of things really well, and so we'll definitely need to bring our A game in order to survive and advance.
I agree with what Demetrius said. I think we got to be great with the ball and be poised offensively and be ready to defend, you know, from the tip. So.
Yeah, you know, one thing that they do good job at is forcing teams to make turnovers, and that's something that we struggled with in the past, and you know, especially last game in the beginning. So, you know, just us, you know, kind of dictating the tempo and playing at our pace will be key for us.
We have a question all the way on the right side.
Stephen F. Austin's coach described the way they play as positionless basketball. A lot of guys can bring the ball up. They can move people around into different areas. What is the challenge of that for your team on both ends of the floor when they have sort of multiple players who can play multiple positions?
We'll go with Demetrius, VJ, and then Zach.
Yeah, we'll really have to be locked in defensively as moving as five. It's going to be a total team effort on the defensive end because they got a lot of great players, and they can really score the ball, and they do cause turnovers, and they get out in transition, things like that. So we'll really have to. It'll be a great team effort, and we'll have some great things to talk about today in practice.
Like Demetrius said, we'll have to defend as five and, you know, try to limit them transition-wise. You know, we got to try to limit their transition points and points off turnovers.
Yeah, although they're a great team, and you know we're gonna have to prepare for them. You know, we don't want to adjust to them. We want them to adjust to us in how we play. So that's what we're gonna have to do.
Continuing with questions for the student athletes from Notre Dame. If you have a question, just raise your hand. All right, we'll wait for the next question. Looks like we have another question on the right side.
As I'm sure you've seen or heard, Thomas Walkup is getting a lot of attention for them. He scored 33 points last night. I was wondering if you guys have seen him on film, have any thoughts about him and how you plan to attack him and guard him.
Now, normally we may go to a big guy for this question, but because they play positionless basketball, we're going to go with all three of you guys, beginning with Demetrius.
Like you said, he's a really great player, and he had a really great game. And so, once again, it's going to be a total team effort. We're going to have attention to detail, have a team awareness of him, helping each other out in the gaps. And so just flying around. And, Zia's done a great job of that this year, coming over the top, making blocks, and so is VJ. And so it's going to be a total team effort all night long.
VJ.
Like Demetrius said, it'll be a team effort. We'll probably throw different guys at him, throughout the game. But we got to be able to defend him without fouling. He shot a lot of free throws yesterday, so that's going to be big for us.
Yeah, definitely. Just knowing our personnel, probably going to switch up. Maybe might go to 2-3, might play man. Really just understanding him, kind of understanding his tendencies, what he likes to do, what shoulders he likes to go off of, and really just try to pressure that.
We have time for questions for the student athletes from Notre Dame. Is there a final question? All right, we'd like to thank Demetrius and VJ and Zach for joining us here. They're going to head back to the locker room. They'll be available there until 4:35. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Barclays Center here in Brooklyn. The Notre Dame locker room is open until 4:35 p.m. We're joined right now by the head coach of the Fighting Irish, Mike Brey. Coach Brey, would you like to make an opening statement today?
We are thrilled to still be alive. As I said last night, that was a what a great college basketball game. It was just an honor to be part of it and be in it, and loved how my guys made big plays to advance.
Looking for the first question, and we have one on the left side with Nicole.
Nicole Auerbach, USA Today. We've been spending a little bit of time with Thomas Walkup and learning about what makes him so versatile. So I was wondering your thoughts on that, and also have you ever faced a player who looks that much like his own mascot?
That's a good one, Nicole. I'll say this about him. I was telling our staff this morning watching film. We've played in the last, let's just say the last 3 years in the ACC, we've played against a lot of talented guys. We have not played against a guy who has a better or higher basketball IQ than him. He really has a feel for the game, and I have the utmost respect for that because that's how we've kind of built our program with basketball IQ guys. But his stuff is the kind of you see with a crafty NBA veteran who's been in the league 10 or 12 years, who just takes advantage of young guys. He's involved with everything they do and then leads. Just fabulous player, and he's going to be hard to deal with, and we can't guard him with just one guy. A couple different guys are going to have to guard him.
Next question's on the right
His
side.
beard's a little better than mine, though, I think, right? Okay.
You got time, Coach. You got time to get there. Next one's on the right.
Ralph Russo, Associated Press. Sort of jumping off of Nicole's question. Brad Underwood said they play positionless basketball. Versatile guys, obviously Walkup being the most versatile. How does that challenge what you do on both ends of the floor?
We kind of play that way too. We have some interesting. We don't number our guys. We kind of have basketball players who know how to play, and we have the ability to switch a lot of stuff. I thought we switched a lot of things last night in the second half that helped us really be good defensively to win the game. I think you have to be ready to do that against this group. But they have a great system. Brad, he's done an unbelievable job with the program. A lot of respect for how he's built it because they've got a defensive philosophy that makes it chaotic, and they run their stuff very disciplined offensively.
Looking for the next question for Coach Brey, if there is one.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You got it, Coach. Good luck tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes things here in the main interview room for the day. We'll be back tomorrow after the 12-10 matchup with the postgame.